Hi, welcome back. Today's video is going to be books that you can read in a day. Some of these are just short and that's why you can get through them. I also think that all the books I picked are good picks, but some are also just that and great that you just want to fly through them in a day. And so I'm going to give you my recommendations. I wanted to say sorry for no video last week. I had sat down and recorded a whole video, and then when I went to edit it was all blurry and it was Tuesday when I was editing. So I left it for last minute and then I got so fed up that I just didn't do it, and then I ended up taking the whole week off. So we're back, and yeah, I want to go through these books with you because I think right now is a time that I really want like quick, fast-paced reads. I've been in a bit of a, I say a reading slump. I've still read a lot, but mentally I've just not been in the reading mood. And so I think that this is always that time of the year that I want books that I can read really quickly, get through in a day. And so these are all books that I think could do that for you. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So I think I'm going to start with books that are just like physically shorter that I think that you could get through, but also they're ones that I really enjoy. And the first one is A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. This was one I read in a recent reading vlog that my sister-in-law got me, and first she got me it for Christmas, and I read it and I had mixed feelings because it's not a book that has a ton of like plot, but I think that the world that is built and the conversations that are had are actually so really well done and beautiful and everything. So I ended up giving this a 4-star, but I think that this is a book to pick up if you just want a book that you can kind of get immersed in a world and fly through. It's a novella, so it's only I think 20 pages. Let's see, 140 pages. So you could definitely read this in a day, and it's just like one of those feel-good books where it's basically about a monk and a human. The human, they are kind of unsatisfied with life, so they go and train to become a tea monk, leaving their old occupation, and then they find that that didn't really solve their issues, and then they end up going into the forest, and where they meet Mosscap. So the human's name is Dex, and then Mosscap is a robot, and then they just kind of talk and learn about each other and things like that. And the world that Becky Chambers writes is just so vivid, and there's going to be another book coming out, and I can't wait to pick it up just because I think that's one of the things that is most powerful about the book. Is just the world that it's set in is so beautifully detailed, and I just want to know more about it. But yeah, so this is definitely one I would recommend if you like sci-fi, or if you just like slow kind of like philosophical books where like characters have conversations about what the world means and stuff. And even if you're not a big science fiction reader, because I'm not at all, I still found that I really enjoyed this, so I would still recommend it even if you're not that into science fiction like me. So the next book is one I've recommended a couple of times, but I think it's just one of those books that is truly like a quick and fun read, and I didn't see it coming personally when I read it the first time, and that is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This is about two sisters, and their family was murdered by arsenic, and the whole town is weary of them now because they know that the older sister probably poisoned the whole family. And then they're at this house, and like a family member comes to visit, and things just start going downhill. And it's just a very like eerie, sinister book, and it's again not very long, 100 pages, so super quick. It's just one of those books where you're like, you just have to know what happens. Shirley Jackson does such a good job of just setting the most eerie vibes is all I can think of to say, just eerie vibes. So yeah, I read this in a day, and it's just one of those books that has always stuck with me. And I think if you're looking for just like a quick read to pull you out of a reading slump, this could be it. It is a classic, so like the writing style, it's a little more formal I think than by today's standards, but I think it's still one that is easy to fly through, easy to understand, and she wrote a very suspenseful story really well and in 100 pages. So I'd highly recommend picking this up if you're looking for a quick suspenseful read. The next one is a classic as well, and this one is just one of those books that I think is maybe not for everyone, but I think that again, as like a non-science fiction reader, I still really enjoyed it. So I read this for class, and this is The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. So this was actually published in 1898, I believe, and in the 30s, it was like 1938, there was a radio broadcast that actually read this script out, like this book out loud, and it was just reading through the events. And the way it's written is so vivid that it actually caused mass panic, and listeners to the radio thought that they were under attack by aliens, because this book is about basically different like aliens coming down and we're at war with other planets, and it's about like the advancement of technology and things like that, and how Wells was like predicting that it could have massive effects and all out war. It was so vividly written that people of the time actually believed that this was just a report saying they were under attack, and so it caused mass panic. I think that is just the most interesting thing. Obviously it wasn't good when it was happening that it was causing mass panic, but it was just something growing up that my dad talked to me about, and I think we actually listened to it in the car, and it is very like vivid. And so I think that that is so cool that that happened, even though it's like at the time wasn't, obviously people were panicking, but just to like know that his writing was so vivid that it could do that. And then I read this in college for a class, and it was all about like science fiction technology and stuff like that. I'd highly recommend this if you just want like war story, but it's also so much more about it. Like, I feel like it's just commentary on war and a commentary on technology, but again, like the way it's written is so vivid that you're just gonna wanna like fly through this. So I wanted to recommend that as one to try. It's never a book recommendation around here without my girl Agatha Christie. So I think Agatha Christie I recommend all the time for very many reasons, because I love Agatha Christie, but I think that Agatha Christie is one that does really well for short, like read them in a day type books. She just like does not write very long books, but they suck you in, and I think that they are just like great. Like, I always take them on vacation, I read them really quickly, so I would highly recommend these if you just want like a quick book. Say you're going on like a weekend vacation, you want a quick book that you can read in a day while you're there, bring in Agatha Christie. I think that she does it really well, and these are my two that I would most recommend. So the first one is Murder in the Orient Express, and this is part of the Perot series. You don't have to read the Perot series in order. I actually started by not reading them in order, and then I decided I wanted to go back and read them in order just because that's how my brain likes to work. This one is a movie, so you may have seen the movie, and I think the movie held up pretty well, but I think that the book is just better in my opinion, but I usually think that about book and movie adaptation. And this is basically a man is found dead on the train, and Perot is investigating, and he is trying to figure out who did it, but no one could have left the train, so whoever is on the train had to have killed him. It's a locked room mystery where you're trying to figure out like how they got in and out and things like that, because no one saw the killer and it was in a train car and all this stuff. So I just think the premise is so interesting, and it just is one that like makes you want to figure out what's happening. Now, Perot books in general are a little more like slow moving in that it's a lot of just like asking questions, and you are not really getting what Perot's thinking throughout the whole thing. You're just kind of like along for the ride, and then he'll have a big reveal at the end of what happened. But I just think that this one specifically did it so well, and it kept me engaged, so like I read this in one day and could not put it down. So this is my first recommendation for Agatha Christie. And then this one, which is the one I think a lot of people will know, but it's And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and this so far has been my favorite book of hers. And this is basically these people are brought to an island as guests to a dinner party, and then one by one they start being killed, and they don't know why, but there's this poem that you can find at the beginning of the book that is detailing how they're gonna be killed, but you don't know who's gonna be killed and when. It was just like so interesting and so compelling. Like, I could literally not put this down. I know I've said that about a couple books so far, but this is true. You couldn't have ripped me away from this book while I was reading it. I had to know what happened. And so this is definitely like one of those books that just keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time, and the way she does it is just so masterfully written and in such little pages. I feel like a lot of times I need to like connect with a character in some way, and in this you don't really connect with any of the characters because you don't have enough time to get to know them, but still like I was so invested in the mystery, and I just haven't read a book that has done it as good as she has. She is seriously the master of this, and if you have not read it, I would highly, highly recommend, and make sure your day is free because I don't think you'll be able to put it down. Now, I will say that I would totally recommend more Agatha Christie because I think all her works are really good. I just think those two are my favorite. So if you're looking for a place to start, I would maybe start with one of those. So the next book I have is a YA mystery, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So this is the first one. I would say the second one is the same for me, and that's Good Girl, Bad Blood. I haven't read the third one yet, but I want to get to it. And A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is about Pip, and she is doing a senior capstone project, and she decides that she wants to do it on who killed Andy Bell. And Andy Bell was killed a couple years prior, and everyone in the town believes that Sal Singh, Andy Bell's boyfriend, killed her, but her body's never been found, and then Sal had committed suicide right before he was about to be arrested, and so the police have kind of tied it up as like he did it, but Pip believes there's more to the story and that he probably was innocent. And so this is about like her investigation into what happened, and it's mixed media. So you're getting her like doing interviews, but you also get her like notes in here. I don't know if you can see that. But you get notes that she's taking because it's also for like a capstone, so she has to take notes and stuff. So there's a lot of different media in here, which I think lends itself to reading it quickly. But also just the story itself is simple but compelling. It reads YA in that she is young, but I didn't feel like that hindered the story. In fact, I thought it made it better. And I've heard it be described as like modern day Nancy Drew, and I do agree with that. I think it's even better than Nancy Drew, so if you were someone who really liked Nancy Drew growing up, I think you should give this a try. It was really well done, and I think that the characters, like I really enjoyed Pip, I enjoyed Robbie, and the other characters of the book, and I thought the twists and turns were just very well done. And I liked the second book, Good Girl, Bad Blood. I didn't like it as much as this one, but I still liked it, and I'm interested to see how the series wraps up. So if you also want a series to like binge, I would try this one. Okay, speaking of series to binge, I know this is not really like a popular booktube opinion. I haven't really heard other people talk about it too much, and I know the series is not for everyone. It's not like the most inclusive, I guess, but I wouldn't say I have glaring flaws with it. But that's the Pendergast series by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. This is the last book. This is the 20th book, Bloodless. They're up there, and I didn't want to go to the bottom of my stack to get to the first book. But I've talked about this a lot because it is seriously a favorite series. So this is just following a FBI agent, Pendergast, and he is like very much your stereotype, is kind of like good at everything type of person, but he is from Louisiana and New Orleans, and he is rich, and he like has an inheritance that he has, and he like doesn't take any money from the FBI. I think he takes like $1 a year or something from them as his salary, but he's assigned like the most crazy weird cases because he's the only one who seems to be able to solve them. Each book is like following a different case. I literally have binged like every book that is in the series. Like they always just suck me in. There's only been like 1 or 2 that just weren't as good as the rest that I wasn't as interested in, but I think I've given mostly 4 stars or 5 stars to every book in this series. And it's just because like they do such a good job at writing like a thrilling story. Like page turning, I have to know what's going to happen. Every story is different, and there's also trilogies within the stories that are really good, and I binge those. And it's like I don't know how to describe it other than like my heart will be racing at the end of the books. Usually it's like around the last like 100 pages. It's just like almost dropped the book. It's usually like a sprint. They also have like paranormal stuff into it. Like this one like could be a vampire, could not be a vampire, we don't know. They just go some wild places with some of them. So I would highly recommend the series to give it a try, and I would highly recommend getting at least through the 3rd book because the first 2 are very different from the rest of the series. They're still good in my opinion, but they aren't indicative of what the series is as a whole. So I would do that and get through Cabinet of Curiosities, which happens to be one of my favorites. But yeah, I would highly recommend the series. I can't talk about it enough. I mean, I have a whole shelf dedicated to it, and I have never read a series through 20 books like I have with Pendergast. So to me, that's a great series. So I'm going to talk about a book I read really recently for a vlog, and that is The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. So when I had started the vlog, I had hoped to read a good portion of it, but I did not expect to read like all of this in 24 hours. It was one of those books that just sucked me in. Like, it's a slow moving plot, but for some reason it just like the atmosphere and the way she writes, Simone St. James writes this story, is just sucked me in so fully. So this is following Shay, and she is a crime blogger, and she had a traumatic event in her past that kind of led her to this path of like crime blogging. And she one day sees Beth, who is a woman who in the 70s was tried and acquitted of murdering 2 men in their small town. And now it's 2017 and she sees her. She asks her if she can interview her for her blog, and Beth agrees, but only if she interviews her at the mansion that Beth lives at, because Beth is an heiress who has no family left and just stays up in this mansion for most of the time, unless she has to go into town for something. And the rest of the town kind of hates her because they believe that she did murder these men. It's just following both of their perspectives, but you're also flashing back to Beth in the 70s and what actually happened back then, and the mystery just unfolds. And there's a bit of a like paranormal activity. There's a bit of paranormal like elements to the story, because in the mansion while they're there, some weird things start happening and Shay has to figure out if this is just Beth being a serial killer, or if the house could be haunted, or like is Beth just messing with her, basically. And I thought this was just like so interesting. It was such an interesting premise. I'm a sucker for like dual timelines and dual POVs. I know for some that can like ruin it because you just want to stay in like one timeline, but for me it just like works so well. I just like love getting bits of information from the past and then applying it to what's happening now. And I liked both the characters, even though they both had their own flaws, especially Beth had flaws. It was just like so interesting to read about them. And if you want something that like you just feel so swept into a story that you don't want to put it down, this is definitely one of those books. This is a little bit longer. I think it's closer to like 350 pages. So like typically not something you would necessarily complete in a day, but I think that the story itself was so engaging that I just had to know what happened. So I think that this would be a good one. And in a similar vein to that, I have In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. So this is also dual timeline, dual POV. So this is following a group of friends who back in college when they were there, they went to like an elite kind of, not Ivy League, but just under Ivy League kind of school. And it was a group of 7 friends, and one of them is murdered, Heather, and the killer is never found, though everyone believes her boyfriend did it, but there was never enough evidence to like actually try him for the case. And now it's years later, it's their college reunion, and they all go back and they have to confront what actually happened back then. All the characters are a little bit like unhinged in a way. The friend dynamics were very like believable. Like it felt like a bougie college setting and like what people would actually do. Like it wasn't so over the top in a way. Like it was like very real to what I think college students could go through. And it's a lot of like frat and sorority aspects. So I can't really speak to that because I was not in a frat, or well, obviously I was not in a fraternity. No, I was not in a sorority. So I can't speak to like what that life is actually like. But I felt like it was pretty true to like college and friendships in general, and just like they all meet freshman year and how those bonds like can change over time and things like that. She weaved together all these narratives so well, and it was just 5 stars for me, and I read it in literally a day. So I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a thriller that you can read really quickly and just like be super engaged in, this is another one. Okay, so I have like a kind of like general suggestion, and then I'll show you some of like my favorites. This is generally, I think graphic novels are a great one to pick up if you're just looking for something quick that you can read and you can take on vacation and you're just like want to fly through, or just if you just are like not in the reading mood but you want to get yourself out of that slump and you just need a book that you can read really quickly, I would choose graphic novels. I specifically love middle grade type graphic novels. So I have a couple. So I have Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill, and this is about a girl who can go and she trains to like be a tea master, I guess you would call it. But each person that does this gets their own tea dragon and they bond with them. And this is just like a really cute story about friendship and like preserving history and things like that. And it's part of a series, so this is the first one. I think there's 3 in total. And then we've got Seance Tea Party, which I just read, and this is about a girl who doesn't want to grow up. Like all her friends are growing up, they're becoming interested in like teenager things, and she's not ready for that. So she basically holds a seance and this ghost shows up and they become friends, and then it's just about like growing up and keeping the child within you but also changing and evolving, and just like how it's okay to still love things from your childhood and you don't have to grow up and just become a completely different person even if you are growing and changing. And I thought it was really cute and really just like a heartfelt story, and I did tear up a bit in here. I mean, I think I teared up in all of them, but I wouldn't use me as like the determiner on if you're gonna cry in a book because I cry like all the time, so you know. I'm biased, I guess. Then my favorite that I've talked about so many times, Garlic and the Vampire by Brie Paulson. It's about Garlic, who is sent by the rest of her vegetable friends to go up to this castle in the mountains that they believe a vampire's there, and she is supposed to take down the vampire. And it is just the cutest little story. There's Garlic and the Witch coming out soon, and it's just the sweetest little tale about vegetables and vampires and just like believing in yourself. I love it so much. Like, everything about this book is just for me 100%. So yeah, those are some recommendations. This is my first foray into graphic novels, so I know that there's a bunch out there, but I just think graphic novels in general are great if you are looking just for a quick read to get you out of like a reading slump that you can read in a day. Okay, we've got the last pile. So we've got, I would consider all three of these to be cozy mysteries. So two I'm going to kind of talk about together, and then another one I'm going to talk about separately. Cozy mysteries. I think they're great for just if you want something to read in a day. Typically they're around 200 pages, maybe a little more, so they're not something that's going to take you a long time. I have read them in actually a day. Don't read cozy mysteries if you're looking for like the craziest plot twist. You're looking for like an insane mystery. No. Read them for the vibes. Pick the ones that you want that sound like something right up your alley, and then read those, because really cozy mysteries is about the vibes with some murder. So like if you like murder but you just want cozy vibes, cozy mystery. So for me, that is Tea Shop Mysteries, which is by Laura Childs. This is my first ever cozy mystery that I tried, and I really enjoy it. So this is about a woman who owns a tea shop in South Carolina, in Charleston, and they are serving, in the first book, they're serving tea at this party, and someone is poisoned and is killed, so the police naturally look to them as the suspects, and she ends up deciding to try to figure out what actually happened because her tea shop is in danger of going out of business, and she does not want that to happen. So it's about her and her coworkers like solving this mystery of what happened, and I thought it was like a good mystery. I enjoy the characters, I enjoy the setting, I love the tea and Charleston and all that. So I've read Death by Darjeeling, which is the first one, and I've read Gunpowder Green, and I want to start Shades of Earl Grey soon. So this is a book of 3, but they're usually like mass market paperback size. These are ones like you can easily get from the library or from like the thrift store. That's where I found all of these from. This, for me personally, is a great option because I love tea and tea shops, and like there's a lot of like antiques and stuff in here and history, and that's kind of something I really enjoy. So I like this. This is one I want to get to, which is A Quiet Life in the Country, which is Lady Hardcastle mystery, and this is like a historical mystery, cozy mystery, where they're back in 1908, and they're in like, they moved from London to the countryside, and at their countryside home a body is found in the woods, and they're trying to like save their name but also like figure out what happened. I like historical mysteries, so a historical cozy mystery sounds like right up my alley. But these are just 2 examples. There's so many out there. There's like cozy mysteries about food. So if you're someone who really likes food, cooking, restaurants, baking, any of that, there's that. There's cozy mysteries that are like paranormal. So I have one that I want to read that is it's called Daisies for Innocence, and it's an enchanted garden mystery. So it's like gardening but also magic, which is like something right up my alley. But there's so many different kinds. There's also like bookshop ones. So like someone's in a bookshop or a library and they start unraveling mysteries. So really there's like anything that you could like, you could probably find a cozy mystery for. And they're just all vibe. If you're looking for like a Hallmark, Lifetime mystery book, cozy mysteries probably for you. And yeah, they're just fun. Take them on vacation, take them to a beach. They're fun. I would highly recommend them. So this one I guess you could technically call a cozy mystery, but is not at the same time. Like, it's better in my opinion than like a lot of cozy mysteries, and it's funny. So that's Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Casamano. This is a series. The next one is Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead, which I have but I haven't read yet. And this is following Finley, who is just a mom who is recently divorced, so she's kind of, oh god, Pippi. I saw Pippin walk out of the room and I had a heart attack because I thought that there was a black shadow, like a person just like coming at me, and I thought it was about to be attacked, so whew. Alright, let's take a moment. Yeah, do you need to come up? Do you want to come up? So this is about Finley, and she is recently divorced, and she's kind of like basically a single mom now, and she is just like trying to make ends meet but is barely able to hang on. And she ends up going to meet with her editor, I believe is her editor. I want to say stylist, but that's not the word. Anyway, she goes to meet with her editor and at a Panera, and then while they're talking about her new book, which is about murder mystery. And the woman next to her mistakes it for her being a hit woman and offers her money to take a hit out on this man. And then it just evolves into a crazy story from there. And it was just so fun, and I really liked Finley and Vero. Their friendship is just so cute, and I just really loved it. I feel like it was over the top, but not so over the top. And it's just one of those books that's been really hyped up on BookTube, but I thought was really worth it. Like, I gave this 5 stars. I just thought it was so fun and entertaining, and just like one of those books you just like can't put down. It's longer. It's almost 400 pages, but it's like just so cute and fun that you just like want to know what happens next, and you want to like see them out of their ridiculous like predicaments that they're in. So I'd highly recommend this for a book you want to just fly through. So yeah, there you have it. There's all the books I would recommend if you are looking for a book that you can read in a day, or just to get you out of a reading slump, that are fast paced and not too long. I would highly recommend all these, and I'd love it if you'd leave some recommendations down in the comments so other people could get some books that they could read. And yeah, I will see you next time.